want to start in thinking about American cultures and why it's so important to think back to that time, because there really is a very direct connection between the anti-apartheid movement and the birth of American cultures. And there was this spark ignited in South Africa when the government decided to allow so-called Indians and coloreds to participate in elections for the first time. A reform that they thought would ease some of the political pressure, but instead had the opposite effect and gave birth to the United Democratic Front and for the first time in many years, open political protest in the country. So once again, the government was forced or felt forced to respond with violence against these protests, which brought South Africa back on all the news. And so that then led to first longshore workers here in San Francisco refusing to unload cargo from a South African ship, led to Trans-Africa starting a series of protests with the Congressional Black Caucus at the South African Embassy, and started a movement across the country that particularly took hold on college campuses, and Berkeley especially. To be associated with a movement that actually succeeded was really unusual, but still highly significant. And because of the momentum that we'd built, and we were really filling our oats, we said, well, now, if we could do that, we could do more. We can begin to dismantle some of the racial barriers here on the campus. And so we started thinking about the curriculum and looking at the faculty. And the fact was that although Berkeley had been one of the first campuses to create an ethnic studies program because of student protest, it had become a place where ethnic studies was totally marginalized and where there were very, very few faculty of color anywhere else at the university. And we said, this has got to be our issue. For those of us who were students on the campus, we've got to make sure that we desegregate the campus, desegregate the curriculum. Although it was a compromise that I think actually did something profoundly significant on the campus. Now, Ron Choi, who's here, played a critical role in this, and Troy Duster, a mentor of mine, also played a very important role, because what they did was they said, what we're going to do is create a requirement that can be offered anywhere on the campus. And we'll establish criteria that these courses need to meet, a comparative criteria. Right? So that you're not just learning about an experience, you're learning about multiple ethnic and cultural experiences in these courses. And we're going to give faculty resources to develop these courses, and we're going to bring faculty together to talk about their work, something that was unheard of at UC, that the faculty would actually talk about teaching. Right? You know? Think about that.
We are proud of where American Cultures is today. This past year, American Cultures courses in engineering, peace and conflict studies, ethnic studies, legal studies, architecture, anthropology, and public health all worked with community organizations, building student and faculty research into the developing fights for environmental justice, prison abolition, indigenous movements, the fight for K-12 education, and the arts and social justice.
I think different universities are experimenting with different models of engaged scholarship. But I think what's unique about the Berkeley approach is the twinning of American cultures and engaged scholarship. Because what it does is to make questions of race, class, gender, and other inequalities central to engaged scholarship. So the way I like to think about it is that engaged scholarship becomes a very intimate confrontation with those lived experiences of race, class, and gender.
I feel like with the community engaged scholarship, right, it makes it theoretical practical. And my critique of education is that we learn all these theories, we learn about all these people, but how is that addressing my day-to-day life? I don't believe that education or the knowledge that we're learning about is just for our brains and then we just go ahead and make a whole bunch of money. It's about like what can we do for our society and how can we help out those around us and the communities in which we come from. And I think community engaged scholarship does exactly that. And it makes like life for these people real. If you never lived this experience, the only way for you to really know about it is to actually be embedded and immersed in that experience. And that's what engaged scholarship does. In my opinion, that's what it does for me.
But I think in the final analysis, we're talking about teaching. We're talking about making it possible for our students to prepare for the 21st century by having the opportunity to participate in community engagement and to know firsthand what their issues are and not just take a second-hand or accept at face value what a particular textbook says or by some social scientist who was an expert in the area.